Once again, folks, this is Texas State Senator Bob Hall. Welcome back to Senate District 2 as we continue our discussions on the issue of border security and the invasion of our country. And we're really honored today to have a gentleman here with us that I had the honor of meeting here about a month ago. One of our real American heroes has decided that he understands that there is no place in the Bible that talks about retirement, that God put us here to keep working. And as long as he puts breath in our lungs, that's what he expects us to be doing. And he's the epitome of this. Craig Sawyer, he's he was SEAL Team 6, counterterrorism. He was also 5 years a federal agent and air marshal. He worked at the State Department and intelligence agencies in protecting and moving personnel. And he is very well versed in the Clower-Piven strategy of destroying this country. And when I met him down in Austin at the event we had down there, he gave a very, very compelling talk about the problem we have with child trafficking. And it's so closely tied to what's happening at our border in this attempt to destroy this country. And so I asked Craig to take a few minutes and come tell us about what's really happening and what he sees in child trafficking and hopefully with how we get out of this mess we're in. So Craig, thank you very much for being here with us today. I appreciate it. I know you're really busy between making documentaries and going after the really bad guys to take a little time to tell people about it. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We appreciate your service as a servant leader, a true one to our country and the state of Texas, and your heart for the children and willing to address this issue. So it was a pleasure and honor meeting you and speaking there in the Capitol building in Austin. So I founded Veterans for Child Rescue to expose the extent of child trafficking to the American citizens so that we would all understand the nature of the threat and so we could better defend our children from it. And no sooner than I founded the organization, our daughter was taken at knife point in Tucson, Arizona, and violently sexually abused over and over again. We did get her back. It took 2.5 years to bring her attacker to justice, to bring him to trial due to a slack judicial system here in Arizona, especially in Tucson. But we did fight back as a family, and ultimately he got put away for 68 years, guilty on all fronts. And our daughter, having been victimized, felt like she was supported enough and had enough fight in her to fight back and make sure he would rape no more. So he's in prison today where he'll remain for 68 years. And we're grateful that she wanted to fight back. And I think that's something that all American citizens can realize. We can fight back in doing this. So we run joint ops with law enforcement, federal and local, and take the predators off the streets to rape no more. But we also expose it through our documentary Contraland, which you can watch for free at contraland.com.
Before we move on beyond your daughter, before you move on beyond that, as I recall, that was not your idea. Matter of fact, you were very adamantly opposed to her getting involved because what she wanted to do in getting involved, she wanted to be bait.
Yes, sir.
Bait for these predators. That's you were adamantly opposed to it, but I believe that actually you spawned a person with a stronger will than yours, which is a pretty strong one, and she won out. Is that not right?
It's true, and I would love to claim credit for loving her and training her to be that way, but she just came out of the womb with an iron will, and although attacked, she did decide that he couldn't be allowed to harm anymore, because she said, Papa, when he had that knife to my throat, he had told me that he had killed all the others. So she says he's a serial rapist and maybe a murderer, that he won't stop unless we stop him. So she was intent on stopping him. So I think it's important to share that so people can be inspired by a little girl that can fight back, and what can we as adults do. So we in our joint operations, sometimes we use junior decoy agents who pretend to be, because they look like they're much younger, and they act as a lure for these rapists to come. And they break the law in approaching and attempting to have sex with these minors, and they incriminate themselves. And that's just one of the many ways that we take these predators off the streets. So she wanted to serve in one of our operations, and I was her papa. And you're right, sir. I said no. But all my team and even my wife said, Craig, you should really let her do this. You'll be right there with her. House is full of law enforcement. She'll be safe. Let her fight back. So I did, and I'm glad that I did. And she served very professionally. And I believe it was 9 predators ultimately that we put away due to that operation that she participated in. So folks, we can all do a little something. And what I said there in the Capitol building to all the reps there is folks, don't let my petite little daughter outperform you in fighting back against child trafficking. And
that's why I wanted you to make sure you covered that story. That was very compelling to bring light to the fact that it's time that we folks quit sitting on their duffs and complaining about what's happening, and take action to somehow get involved in some way or another to the best of their ability to put an end to this. We've got to get away from the mindset that somebody else is going to solve all of our problems. We've got to recognize the old statement is, if it is to be, it is up to me and to do my part in it. So thank you for sharing that. And I just want to make sure people understood that that there are people out there that have gone through some very, very traumatic things who have said enough is enough and stepped in. So
yes, sir. Agreed 100%. And I think it's important for us as American citizens to realize anybody that's identifying us as victims or telling us we can't make a difference is not doing us any service. We have to realize the hostility in that mind trick of causing us to give up and think that we are powerless or can't be effective when we unite to stand up for what's right. And we need a legal system that will prosecute these criminals that are ruining our country. And to go soft on them is not merciful. It's not kind. When you have a serial rapist or a child trafficker or a murderer, it's not kind to let them continue harming others through a slack judicial system. There are those of us that live within the rules of society, and we're productive and we're loving and we treat our neighbors the way we want to be treated, hopefully, but that's the way we're designed to work. And when those who cannot live within that system begin ruining it for all of the rest of us, they need to be put in a box where they can't do that anymore. And right now we have a series of judges, DAs, and AGs who will not prosecute entire categories of crimes due to those who fund their campaigns and help put them in those seats. And my point to that is, folks, you need to start looking at your local judges and district attorneys and even your state AGs and saying, hey, are they putting a lot of child predators away, or are they allowing the children to continue to be harmed because there's a political conflict of interest there or a financial conflict of interest? We need to examine that and make sure that we have good faith prosecutors and that our children are being served and protected in good faith, because it's a big deal. 38 to 50 billion dollars a year child trafficking in the United States, which means it's bigger than all pro sports combined in annual revenue. This is not some small side project. This is a major industrial scale crime destroying our precious and innocent children.
You're absolutely right. And it's an upcoming election, folks. You've got to recognize that anybody Democrat that's running as in the judicial area or as a AG, they're going to have Democrat funding. And George Soros is one of the major contributors and has already managed to get far too many DAs elected in the state of Texas. And everybody, if we've seen the Democrat DA, we see a huge increase in crime all the way around, and turning a total blind eye to human trafficking, sex trafficking, child pornography, and theft. I mean, it's well documented. It's not a speculation that we're thinking it. We've listened to them brag about it, the fact that they are not going to prosecute, not going to require bail, and turn these criminals back out on the street. And so this coming election, look very carefully and think real hard before you say, well, I'm not real happy with what's in there now. Folks, it's going to get a whole lot worse if we don't keep our Republicans in office.
Yes, sir. These policies, these slack policies against crime are measurably destructive. And it just is what it is. So we've run border ops down there with law enforcement in Southern Texas, several different towns. And we run a sting operation. We got 6 child predators in 3 afternoons. Boy, they came running. And local law enforcement there were surprised how many responded. And so Texas has just as big a problem with child trafficking as any of the other states, maybe more now that the border is down and there's this massive flood. And one thing that I think specifically needs to be addressed in Texas, because Texas seems to be used as a stepping stone for child trafficking on the federal side, because a lot of these flights that are taking children from the southern border and flying them into, we're talking about government chartered flights into other states, are handling the transportation of these children like a covert drug drop. They're dropping these children after hours when it's illegal to land in these airfields, just like, let's say, this one airfield in Tennessee, for one example, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, landing at 3 a.m. when it's illegal to land at this airfield after midnight for local ordinances and so forth. And they have the contents of the aircraft listed as cargo rather than souls. And then when you see a whole aircraft of children get off, smuggled from the aircraft or from buses into private vehicles with no government oversight, nobody seeming to be checking any identification. You don't see any parents there hugging and reuniting with their children, and you see tail numbers on these aircraft that are registered to companies that are out of business. Then you realize there's a covert government operation going on. And why is it that they're handling it in such a surreptitious, covert manner if it's legitimate federal operations taking children and reuniting them with their biological parents? That should be something, in my opinion, that would be done in broad daylight and even celebrated. Hey, here's children that were in harm's way. They got lost in the shuffle on the border, and now we're reuniting them with their biological parents. Isn't that an honorable and good thing? That they're going to be safe? Why the shameful, covert nature of these operations and the illegal nature of it, after hours with bogus tail numbers and illegal labeling of the contents as cargo rather than souls. So there's something that Texas can look into to make sure that state isn't being used dishonorably in that manner.
Oh yeah, and you're talking about things of multiple violations of the law. Yes, the manifest, that's a violation of federal law. The manifest, operating an aircraft on a bogus tail number, that's a federal offense, and only the federal government, in cooperation with itself, could actually do that and get away with it. And it's the first cousin to what we know we experienced back when Obama was trafficking guns and ammunition to the cartels. We caught them red-handed with the Justice Department actually providing weapons and ammunition to cartels and expose that. It's the same group, the same people that have continued to exist in this deep state government that now has brought us January 6th and the other things that are taking place in the Justice Department that has lost its way. It has absolutely shredded our Constitution and makes it possible for things like this to happen. This should have been on the front page of every newspaper, TV station when it was broken. Not one do I remember having said anything about it, but possibly Fox News. in something that is as heinous as it gets. It doesn't get any worse than child trafficking in terms of crimes that are committed, and what the cartels will do to people to make sure that those businesses can continue.
Yes, sir. And I don't care where they're from on the face of planet Earth. In my opinion, they are worthy of protection. They're all God's children. And I do not want to see this massive trafficking of children who are being sent and exposed to only God knows what on the other end of these flights. So I'll make sure you have a full copy of this report, search right here.
Okay.
And,
and tell us about, maybe you've made a documentary on
yes,
this.
sir. Yeah,
Tell the
Contraland.
folks about your documentary.
We spent 3 years filming it. It was self-funded through Veterans for Child Rescue, and that's why we appreciate everybody's support for our org, because this is what we do. And we filmed it in good faith. We brought in experts from the high level of government on the national security side, people who are experts in academia doing research on the nature of this abuse, where it came from culturally, how it's been condoned and funded. And we walk you through what you couldn't believe if I just told you. We show you how it happens, how it came about, and give you tools on what you can do about it. So folks, Contraland is a good faith public service alert that we are all being diminished through this. And one reason, right off the top of my head, just as an example, is we are not getting what we're voting for anymore, because so many of our elected officials are on video having sex with minors. That's what Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were up to. So there, it's called brownstoning in the intelligence community. It's a way of gaining leverage over either officials or public figures. It's done on a wide scale, and that's why it's important that we elect people with strong moral values and integrity who aren't going to be caught at parties and mansions and islands doing these things where they can be blackmailed over it. So whether or not you have children or even care about children, you are not getting what you're voting for in so many ways, because so many of the elected officials are compromised, and they answer to whoever holds the footage of them having a sex with minors, doing drugs, or whatever it is that they've gotten compromised doing. They're beholden to those people that control that video, rather than to you and I, the American voter. So that's something really we have to address.
And that's Bob, really sad. Do you think there's any chance that we'll ever get a whistleblower or an insider to get their hands on some of those and expose it, so we can know without any doubt? I mean, there's a lot of speculation from Manifest of who went to Fantasy Island and who was associated and things of that nature. But until I think somebody turns up with some of the hard evidence of the videos and says this is what's keeping them doing what they're doing,
I do have hope. Now, there's been a lot of corruption that's gone unchecked and unmitigated, and it seems like so many of these high-level crooks are operating with impunity and an arrogance parading in front of us. I mean, anybody listening to this, I'm sure, could rattle off a dozen names right off the top of their head of people that deserve to be in prison right now with observable crimes against the American people, yet there they remain free. Why? So there is a pervasiveness of corruption, but I do have hope, because look, when I was in the Air Marshal Service, I became a national security whistleblower, not because I set out to, but just because I witnessed a guy who had come from the high level of the FBI. He was an SES level executive, and I had to blow the whistle on him in good faith for the protection of my own agents. I had 210 agents to manage there in Las Vegas at the time. This guy was ruining my best, most stellar agents' careers, and I didn't understand why. And me blowing the whistle on him cracked his armor open. They came eventually after two more guys stepped up and were emboldened by my example. They lawyered up, and they brought further investigation. Eventually, there was a special congressional delegation investigations against him, and they found gross mismanagement and retaliation, and he was eventually fired for those things, which is exactly what I'd reported him for. And I made a video about it after the recent Trump raid. And I was contacted by an FBI agent who made a very powerful video about him and his national security whistleblowing. And I said, man, this is really, really good. I appreciate you sharing this with me. You know, I made a video a few weeks back too. And he said, Craig, I saw your video. That's why I'm sharing mine with you. And I thought, wow, I didn't think anybody was listening to little old me, but we'll find that when we're emboldened in our righteous right fighting is what my wife refers to it. She goes, you know, we're right fighters. We stand up against wrong to stop these serial predators, whether it's political predators or financial predators or sex predators, because we stop them from harming others. It's what we should all do. So people heard me when I didn't think that they were, and there have been 8 or 10 FBI whistleblowers that have stood up since the Trump raid, because that's what I was calling for in my video. And so, sir, I do believe that there's hope. I think that when people realize that there's a way to blow the whistle and there is a way to expose these crooks, because exposure, Senator Hall, is what they can withstand the least. These crooks that have the whole inside political system monopolized and wired for corruption cannot withstand public exposure.
Oh,
so we can expose them, and that's what they cannot withstand. So that's why we need whistleblowers, and we need to blow the whistle in the right way. And there is hope. And find your way, find your mark, and do it righteously. And it can make a very big difference. So much so that it's worth it, no matter what the retaliation against you, because nothing gets fixed unless one of us steps forward and is willing to risk our career to bring about a positive change.
Absolutely. And if you could can share those videos with us, links to them, we're glad to make that available for people to see what courageous people can do in fighting back. There is a place for all of us to join in the fight. And there's not all places that we can all join in, but there will be a fight, and hopefully these videos might inspire people to find a place that they can step up and do more than they've been doing. And you've also got a website, vetsforchildrenrescue.org.
Vetsforchildrescue.org. Yes, sir. Yeah. Or they can use the shorter version, the letter V, 4cr.org.
Okay, and we'll put that up for folks to look at, and then you have your radio program also.
Sure. It's radio, and we've already filmed an entire season 1 of a TV show that'll be airing probably later this month. So we're exposing it on all fronts.
And what is the TV show? What is that called?
TV show is also called Defending Our Children, same as the radio show.
Okay, where is that going to be where folks can go see it?
The producer hasn't told us yet which networks that they're finalizing, but they're in talks right now, and it'll be multiple networks, and some of those will be global. So it'll be.
Well, I'll look forward to hearing from you when you know where it's going to be, so we can put that out there, because I know the folks that are listening to this that have stayed with us to this point would be very anxious to learn more about what you've done through that.
Well, that's encouraging to hear.
That's great. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking with us. Is there anything in particular that we didn't get to cover that you'd like to tell the folks out there?
Well, I think you hit on it, the word hope. You know, let's all take heart and link arms and rise up together in a righteous way of bringing about positive change. You know, divided we fall, and we have been divided in every way imaginable, in some ways I couldn't even imagine. So united we stand, folks, and that's what we need to do. That's where our power is. Speak the truth boldly. Don't let anybody silence your voice, and let's find our mark. We can be something together that we can't alone. And we could be a powerful change for those that we love in our country. We can.
Absolutely. And And folks, don't look to the media to provide this information to you. The only thing they're going to continue providing is the fact that it's a humanitarian issue of people that just coming to America for a better life, and nothing, that may be. And the issue of immigration is one of it is of compassion, and that's not the issue. It's being used as a smokescreen. It is being used to cover up the cartel's action in child trafficking, sex trafficking, and drugs. I
Yes,
mean,
it is.
right now, we have got far more people that have died of fentanyl and other drug overdoses because of the cartels than even came close to dying of the COVID. And it continues, and it's being done on purpose. But the complacency that we have with the folks of just not paying attention, and the purposeful deviant work that our federal government is doing, that this is no accident this is happening. This is by design. What's called, what is truly an invasion, but the humanitarian piece of it is just a smokescreen to keep you from looking behind the curtain to see what the cartels are doing, and what this heinous thing of child trafficking. If we were to show you some of the videos that I know that are out there about what these cartels do, you would have a hard time sleeping at night. And so it's people like Craig Sawyer and his veterans that have said enough is enough. They are ready to fight back and are fighting back. That's what we need more of. We need more of our citizens groups taking in their hands to watch their neighborhood, watch where they live, understand what the traits are for human trafficking, identify it, and do something about it with the help of law enforcement. That's what we need to have happen. We need more community participation to stop this, because they know they can operate in plain sight, because most people are just say, I don't want to get involved, and will look the other way. Well, folks, it is time that you stop looking the other way. It's time that you got involved. Time to start saving our country, because there is no cavalry on white horses that is going to come in to save us. It is going to take the people to say enough is enough. It's time we took back our state, time took back our country, and put an end to this. And so, Greg, can't thank you enough for coming on. Folks, I hope you'll watch these videos. We're going to put links up to them here at the end, and you'll get a better idea about what's going on. But thank you for being with us tonight, and God bless you, and God bless Texas.